Welcome to another episode of Inside Startup Investing. As always, I am your host, Chris Lustrino, founder and CEO of KingsCrowd. Inside Startup Investing is a #1 podcast for learning about the best startups and investors in the online private markets. If you are a startup investor, this is a show for you. This podcast is powered by KingsCrowd's proprietary rating technology that helps us to uncover the best founders and stories that you need to hear about before clicking invest. Now, before we get started, we want to thank our sponsor, LawCloud, the premier solution for founders to prepare to raise capital online. Whether you need to file a Form C, a Form 1A, or a subscription agreement, LawCloud provides the lowest cost, easiest to use toolkit for founders to make raising capital online easier than ever. Now, on to today's show. Today, I am joined by Alli Schaper, who is the co-founder and CEO of Supermush. If you are into kind of new age things, I think this is definitely the conversation for you. This is actually a really, really interesting company that has an incredible amount of traction in a very little amount of time in an emerging category that I know very little about, but I'm very excited to learn a lot more about here today. So with that, Alli, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. So would love to learn a little bit more about who is Alli the person and what is Supermush all about?
I'll answer both of those through the lens of mushrooms, and that is the topic of conversation today. The short answer of why I'm here and why we, myself and my co-founder started this whole adventure is because we had life-changing personal experiences with mushrooms, both functional mushrooms and psychedelic mushrooms. We'll talk about which one of those we're actually using in a second, but my personal journey has just led me a lot of different directions in my career. I've worked in corporate America, I've worked in the fashion industry, I've worked in events, I've had a wellness company before this. I've done a lot of different things. I got my master's in accounting and my CPA. So I've had a lot of different lives, and everything that we're doing with Supermush and Into the Multiverse, which is our media arm, actually pulls on a lot of those different lives. And the kind of through line is community and education and wellness. And so, I started to explore the functional mushroom world when I started my first company, and I started to use functional superfood mushrooms and noticed a profound difference in my health. And I was kind of, started to become fascinated with the world of fungi through that lens, through the physical health world, and then started studying what was happening in the psychedelic space when early days people like Tim Ferriss and Michael Pollan were first starting to talk about it and refund it in this third wave of the psychedelic renaissance that we were very much in. And met my co-founder, Brian, who's amazing. He just exited his startup and he successfully sold. He's been an entrepreneur since he's been 19. I read his book, and then we started bonding about our passion for mushrooms and community building and all the things that we're doing now. And so that's kind of the very short version of how this came to be. And what it actually is a few things. One is we have a functional superfood lifestyle brand called Supermush. And it's very, influenced by the 60s and 70s of music and the culture and the art, the artists, the lyrics from that era. And we make supplements and we make merch. Supplements is the primary focus of the business. And then we also have, our media arm, Into the Multiverse, that is a psychedelic education arm. We have a podcast. We do a dinner series a few times a year, but really educating holistically on the power of fungi. And it all kind of feeds each other.
Wow. All right. So first thing that I really want to break down is functional versus psychedelics and helping people understand what the difference is between those two categories.
Yeah. So the technical definition of functional mushrooms is a mushroom that basically has a functional benefit beyond just dietary nutrients. And the most common functional mushrooms you'll hear about, which are non-psychedelic, non-psychoactive, are chaga and cordyceps and lion's mane and turkey tail, reishi mushroom. Those are the main ones that people are really talking about. There's others. There's 13 about main ones. So those are all functional, legal superfoods the funny thing about fungi that a lot of people don't understand is that these have been used for thousands of years. So we like to talk about mushrooms are the only medicine that has actually stood the test of time. And so what we're doing is actually just a reintroduction of a lot of modalities from Chinese medicine, from indigenous cultures that have been using mushrooms of all types for thousands of years. And it goes even, back further than that because humans evolved eating mushrooms. We evolved eating fungi. If you look back 20,000 years ago, you can find fossilized humans with a reishi mushroom in one hand and a psilocybin in the other. So these have been such a vital part of our human development, our brain function, our sexual function, our physical abilities, cognitive, just overall human development. And we stopped consuming fungi in the West. We kind of built this aversion to them. There's this whole stigma around mushrooms. A lot of people think mushrooms just in general, even shiitake mushrooms, are gross. And now what we're doing with Supermush is just really reintroducing them into our diet. So long-winded way of saying like that's functional mushrooms. Psychedelic mushrooms are the psychoactive part of it's called magic mushrooms, psilocybin.
Got it. Now, to take one further step into the functional side of things, so what are some of the health benefits and things that can come from engaging in using these products?
Yeah, so mushrooms are remarkable for your health. So whether it's our brand, we make incredible high-quality functional mushroom supplements, or another brand that is, making their products in an efficacious way, and we can talk about what that looks like. Humans should be consuming them every single day. They are so remarkable for your overall immune system health, for your gut, for your hair, your skin. They have every single one of these mushrooms that I talked about, the cordyceps and lion's mane and turkey tail and chaga, they have overall immune system benefits. There's kind of like catch-all benefits. And then each specific mushroom has a more specific benefit. And so a very like layman's term, like simplification of how you can think about some of these main ones are lion's mane is the brain mushroom. It actually can improve your memory function. It creates neuroplasticity in the brain. So if you take a high dose of lion's mane, you will feel it. You'll feel your brain light up because there's a lot happening there. It's really remarkable if you're looking to get off any sort of ADHD medication. But overall, it's like really good just to have in your system. It also can improve your REM sleep. There's all these different crazy benefits of lion's mane. Cordyceps is another one that people kind of commonly regard as like the athletic performance mushroom because it can increase the production of ATP to your muscles. And so it actually can improve your oxygen, like the amount of oxygen that you're getting into your system so you can perform better and faster for longer. Chinese Olympian athletes swear by cordyceps. It's kind of like their natural steroids, which is really cool. And the list goes on and on. Reishi mushroom is an adaptogen. A lot of these mushrooms are adaptogens, not all, but a lot of them are adaptogens. And it functions to bring your body into homeostasis. And so it's not like if you take reishi mushroom and you're feeling like super anxious, it'll kind of help calm you down. Whereas like if I'm taking it and I feel low energy, it'll help kind of bring your body into balance. All of these mushrooms, the idea is they're helping bring your body into balance rather than something like a caffeine, for example, that regardless of whether, what the terrain is introduced to, it like gives your body this massive upper, but it's artificial. And then you create this crash. So the real thing that we're targeting here with functional mushrooms, and it's like a super long-winded answer, sorry, because I'm super passionate about this topic, is that we just really misunderstand energy in the United States specifically, are the substances that we are marketed. So mushrooms are really designed to help bring your body into balance.
You had mentioned something else earlier on that I wanted to hit on because it talks to kind of market timing and why now. I think you said it's like we're in like the third renaissance or third generation renaissance, something along those lines, kind of the mushroom category. So can you talk about what overall is kind of going on in the category right now in our society that's getting people excited about this? And then why now is kind of the right time to build this company?
Yeah, it's a great question. So genuinely, I believe that there's not a single category that has the potential to influence humanity. Like it's a big answer, but like we believe mushrooms can actually change the world. And our like underlying description of why is that there's not a single category, at least that I know of, that has the ability to influence the environment, physical health, and mental health in such a powerful way, holistically. So fungi are so versatile. There's so much we can learn from them. And the reason why this category is so exciting is it's like a few different things. One is that functional mushrooms like the chaga and cordyceps and lion's mane of the world are making their way back into our diets as a superfood that we have like completely neglected over the last. I definitely neglected it up until I started using these functional mushrooms, and they were wildly impactful for my health. The second thing is that mycelium, which is the underground root structure of fungi, and the fruiting body is what you most commonly find in your dietary supplements. There's a lot of things to look for, but the mycelium, which is the underground root structure, which lives all across the earth, under every single step that you take, there is a mycelium biomass that exists, and it connects all living things that you see above ground, which is also pretty wild. You can transmit nutrients through the mycelium network. The reason why I'm talking about it is one of the crazy cool things about mycelium is that companies are now using that mycelial biomass as replacements for plastic, as replacements for leather. So companies like NASA and Stella McCartney and IKEA was using it for their packaging for a while. There's all these really cool uses of mycelium. And the third thing is what's happening in the psychedelic space. The psychedelic is the therapy space. Psychedelics were in clinical trials in the 60s before the war on drugs shut down all that research. Fast forward to today, that research is now having a resurgence with clinical trials all across the country that are researching the massive benefits of everything from MDMA, psilocybin, ketamine, etc. And so because we are in the worst mental health crisis that we have ever been in as a society, it's arguably the largest problem that the world is facing. Psychedelics have a huge potential to impact that category massively. 1 in 8 people, depending on what studies you look at globally, are suffering from some sort of a diagnosed mental health indication. So the reason why this category is so exciting is like those 3 different lenses: the functional mushroom category, because this is an investor startup podcast. Like, so for people that want numbers behind this, it's a $30 billion industry. It's massive. And that's all functional, legal, superfoods, CPG space. Companies that are leading this space as far as like consumer brands are in the $60 to $80 million a year category with revenue, top line revenue. And the psilocybin space, again, it's in like progressive legal happenings right now. So it's there's a little bit of unknown like how big that actual market is, but if you can market size reverse into like how big the problem is, it's massive.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that front, especially on kind of the mental health front, and even the multitude of health crises that, as an overall society, we may face now. So you do have really exceptional traction, millions in revenue. You haven't been around that long. You have really good traction. You're getting into stores, which is fantastic. So can you talk about how you've been able to drive that traction to date and what's working for you, and how do you plan on kind of expanding those sales going forward?
Yeah, so our approach when we were first, myself and Brian, when we were first thinking about how we wanted to launch this brand, we really wanted to, be the Red Bull of mushrooms, but healthy. And, we're inspired by brands like Liquid Death and the way that they built their model. And so, today we launched in January of last year. We have around 300,000, online audience across our platforms. We're one of the fastest growing consumer brands on TikTok. We just went on this like Shark Tank type TV show and got offers from all the judges. So we're like super excited about that. It actually airs in 2 days. And we've sold $1.5 million of mushroom mouth sprays online in our first year of being in business, which is like, a fairly niche thing in general. Like, spraying mushrooms into people's mouths is like relatively niche. And so now we're really excited about that traction, especially that it's all e-commerce and not inflated by artificial retail revenue. And now we're looking at like how mainstreaming our product offerings. So we just recently launched mints. We're launching gummies, sex, energy, and sleep gummies, which will come out sometime in August, which we're super stoked about. But the way that we've thought about building the brand is like incredibly focused on community. A lot of the stuff that I'm personally just very passionate about is hosting parties and bringing people together in an intentional and curated way. And so, I've been doing that since I'm 16 years old. Brian's been doing it all his life as well. And so it's really cool to see like that through line come out in our business. And so an example of the kind of stuff that we do to build community and like market in a unique way. As we just did, a several 100-person bike ride through the streets of Venice out here in LA, rainbow themed, and like everyone dressed up. And we bring together all these brands also to come participate. We'll bring together, in theory, the brands that are our competitors to come activate with us and share the power of mushrooms and other, amazing wellness products as well. So just to wrap that up, there's like more to be said about it, but our marketing approach has been really cool viral content. Like we've gone viral on TikTok many times. So a lot of people have gotten hit with our brand. A lot of people know us from TikTok. Our audience is Millennial Gen Z. Unique marketing strategy, very festival focused. We just did a huge activation at Bonnaroo. We're exploring big partnerships and conversations with different artists that are kind of, that are up and coming and like major artists in the world as well. And then we have like a pretty tight online like digital strategy as for our digital marketing, which we're about to like turn back on in a bigger way now that we've kind of been in prep mode to launch our next product.
I can't overstate how important like brand is in categories like this. Like Liquid Death, what set them apart was not that their water was better, it's that their positioning and putting it in the can and making the kind of this exciting cool thing is what made it viral, right? And what made people fall in love with it. And even Red Bull, I mean, it doesn't taste good. There's something in the brand that gets people really excited about it. And if you go and check out anything that Supermush does, it is certainly a very unique brand that you won't forget. And I absolutely understand that importance of kind of building that whole lifestyle feel around it. And you're certainly capturing something there. Talk to us a little bit about how you came upon this idea of kind of go with this 60s theme. What is it that you feel connects to this category really well?
Yeah, I mean, the 60s and 70s were the most iconic, one of the most iconic eras for music and culture in general. And so the thing that we're looking to do is really like drive culture in a significant way through the lens of mental health, but inspired by all of these artists and lyrics and song titles. So if you read the website copy, it's really fun and cheeky and like full of sexual innuendos and like full of, inspirational lyrics from that era. We have so many different references to iconic cultural moments that like bring us about a sense of nostalgia. And like even the way that we're branding the product, like we're inspired by the Grateful Dead Jerry Bears. Our little mushroom guy was, our logo was inspired by that. And we have we have a supplement brand that people want to wear on their shirt because they love our merch as well, which has been such a cool thing to see, because we actually that was kind of an experiment when we started. And now we're actually putting more of a significant strategy with like merch collabs and drops and like really leaning harder into the streetwear thing, because a lot of people will find us because of, they like the merch, and then they'll kind of like come into our ecosystem and then start using the products.
So as we think about upside, I think a couple of challenges that my team and I were kind of discussing. One was price point, because I think it is still a relatively expensive product when we think about Gen Z millennials being the target. Okay, so how do you manage price point is one category that we're curious about. And the second one is retail shelves. And I'm just curious, do you get pushback from retail because of the category in general, and people hear mushrooms and they think one thing even though it's functional? I'd love to hear how you're kind of managing both of those.
Yeah, as far as the so the price point first, how we think about it, we're actually like priced very comparable with all of the other, even lower than some of the other brands that are out there as far as like actual product category for the sprays. The mints are a little bit more on the expensive side, but like they're e-commerce right now, so that's fine. When we go into retail, we're definitely dropping the price point. We're actually going to go with like a little bit smaller packaging, even though people like, they love the tins. So we want to like build the brand and then go into the like kind of cost reduction, like more mass market thing, which we're doing right now, which is really exciting. So that's just like general on the price point thing. And the other thing to think about is like if you look at brands like Four Sigmatic or Mudwater, if you actually do like the cost analysis of how much are people spending on that a day, we are in that price point for the functional dose that you're getting. Like 4 sprays is equivalent to what you would get of like making yourself a thing of mushroom tea and etc. But it's like on the go, highly effective. Mouth sprays are actually the most effective way to get supplements into your system. So the number one piece of feedback we get from customers is like, wow, this actually works, which I think speaks to the general, efficaciousness of the entire supplement industry. But people feel them, and we're super dedicated to high quality products, and we won't compromise on that standpoint.
And do you get pushback from retail because of the category?
Yeah, no, actually, so this is interesting. We just gave a whole presentation to Sam's Club because they're interested in the mushroom category and they know that it's about to explode. Sam's Club is would be way down the road for us expanding into it. But what it signals is that they're interested and they see where the space is going, and that is so cool. That was not a conversation we were expecting to have. That was 6 months ago or so. And why I'm bringing it up is that, mushrooms are making this massive wave. A lot of people compare it to the CBD category. It is not the same at all. Number one, because of that lens of mushrooms have been used for thousands of years in Chinese medicine. This is just a really repackaging of Eastern modalities and bringing them to the West. A lot of the CBD products that launched and you saw this giant bubble that happened with CBD that it burst. They weren't making high quality products. So there is not pushback that we're getting from retailers as far as not understanding the category. We've more gotten inbound interest because they see where the space is going. And mushroom brands are already on the shelves of all of these retailers. Or Sigmatic, is it Costo?
I'm curious where you guys source your supply of mushrooms. Where are these mushroom farms?
All over the world. Some of the best mushrooms in the world right now still come from China. Eventually, we'd love to migrate and bring all of that in-house, but facilities and the places that we source our mushrooms from are awesome, incredibly potent extracts. And so that's the other thing to note is when you're, I don't want to get too granular and lost on your question here, but we use fruiting body extracts, meaning that we extract the best part of the mushroom with alcohol and hot water, and then you get this incredibly potent dose. So if in order to get that from mushrooms, you'd have to eat a giant bowl versus just getting it in a few sprays of a tincture, which is so cool. And your body also can't digest if it hasn't been extracted in that way. So it's the most optimal way to get those nutrients into your bloodstream and absorb them effectively. And then just the other note on the retail front is right now we're in Erewhon and Urban Outfitters, and we just are launching in Free People and Aviator Nation and kind of cool brands like that it's all but just been inbound, which we're super excited about. And now what we're looking to do is go into retail in a more significant way upon the launch of the gummies, because we think those products will be way more understood. If you look at the gummy category, it's the number one selling mushroom product out there. And so we wanted to build a viral, alongside powders, So as far as more unique form factors, that's powders and gummies. And when we were looking at, okay, what do we want to launch first? Why? We wanted to do something that gave us virality. So the mouth sprays, the mints, are such an interesting novel product format. The content that we've created with it and the way that it's blown up our brand online has been awesome. And now we're looking to mainstream our offerings through the gummies and products like that.
What more education do we need? What should people know about these functional mushrooms?
As far as what to look for when you're buying them?
Yeah.
So a few things. One is you want to be looking for fruiting body extracts. There's a hot debate amongst the mycology community about this topic. People that are super in it. All the best research that we have seen and been a part of is companies using fruiting body extracts as the most beneficial part of fungi in order to get these nutrients. That's thing number one. You want to be looking for high extract ratios. And overall, just companies that are really transparent. If you reach out to, if you can't find, where is the company getting their mushrooms from? They don't, share about their process online. That's a red flag to look for. I think just in general, now that's an expectation from supplement brands that you should be super transparent with everything online. Customers expect that. Yeah. But also look at, who's behind the company. Where are they from? As far as, history and all of that. Are they out there educating and talking about the topic as well? I find that to be also really important.
And I know that you talked about, a lot of the inspiration for this business came from your own experience and how it's improved your health and whatnot. Is there any part of that story you could share with us for people to kind of learn and hear from someone else who's really benefited from this so they could understand how this could be beneficial to them as well?
Yeah, definitely. So my wellness journey was a lot of my own, just becoming my own citizen doctor, getting off of all the prescriptions I was on, And it was about the time I was in grad school, actually, where I was like, oh my God, why am I on these certain medications that have been prescribed to me for chronic gut issues I've had since I was a baby? And so I started to like really look in and take ownership of my own health rather than just kind of like handing it over to the medical system that very much just like symptom prescribed. And I was on a stack of things that reality like never actually made sense, but especially upon, really learning about them. And so my foray into functional mushrooms was really interesting because I'd already like done so much work on my health and optimizing everything that was going on in my body. But I like to describe my interaction with mushrooms for the first time, like the missing link that I had no idea that was even missing. I was like, oh, I'm great. But I felt like they took my health from like an 8 to an 11 because the reality of what they did was help put my body in flow state for the first time really in my life. A lot of people, we talk about flow state. It's like this cool kind of sexy term, but what does that actually mean? Like what's actually the brain chemistry of flow state? And one of our investors actually has done, Stephen Collar is one of the leading researchers and educators on flow state, which is cool. He's a huge inspiration to my co-founder. But people want flow state, and the way that we misunderstand energy in the United States is like you're supposed to feel this crazy spike from caffeine, and then you get the crash, and then you take something else to combat the crash, and you're just in this vicious cycle. And so what mushrooms did for me was help me feel super balanced. And I started to notice changes in my gut and my skin and my hair. And I was like, what are these? And then really started to understand the inner workings of fungi, what they were doing to my body, why I should be taking them every day. I also don't get sick. They're really protectants against, different viral infections. They have high amount of antioxidants. The health benefits, again, are endless. And whenever I speak about them, I kind of laugh because there's like this huge, sexy, overwhelming craze about mushrooms. But again, they've been around forever. We just haven't like identified the specific ingredients in Chinese medicine and like put them in the spotlight as we're doing now. It's a whole tangent that I get into, but that's like generally what my story is with it. And my co-founders, if people are interested, like he started using cordyceps for athletic performance and noticed like a remarkable shift in his, he's a huge action sports athlete, but he replaced his caffeine with cordyceps.
In terms of feedback that you're getting from your customers, what are you hearing? What are they getting excited about?
The brand, the community, the products people love. I mean, it's a few different things. I think, we're now in an age where it's not enough to have a product. People are looking for mission. People are wanting to get behind things. We could example this, like we opened our crowdfunding campaign because we had so many of our community members ask if they could get involved in a more significant way. When we have these events, we have people come, they like listen to the podcast, or they have had a life-changing experience with functional mushrooms or psychedelics or whatever it is. So I think people are really excited about the mission of mental health. It's obviously something that's super talked about right now, but people are really excited about that, and the brand really hits home for people. As far as like just the general aesthetic of it, it's super fun and colorful, and it's an engaging aesthetic. And I would say the general feedback from people that are using the products is like, number one, like this actually works. Okay, you've made mushrooms taste good, which they don't taste great. Like it's a very difficult thing to put them in supplements, make them taste approachable, like with maintaining the efficacy behind them. And so we're like always iterating our formula, always making it taste better, always making sure that we're maintaining the amount of mushrooms in the functional dose. So they're just like general kind of points of feedback.
What are some of the major things you're excited about over the next kind of, call it 12 to 18 months for the business?
The gummies launch, sex, energy, and sleep gummies, artist partnerships, festival activations. We're doing a big activation again at ACL. Exciting season 2 of the podcast that we have lined up, which is very exciting. And then fundraising. I love fundraising because it gives us the opportunity to bring more cool people into the business. But some of the, we have almost 100 investors across 2 rounds, excluding our crowdfunding campaign. And so we have people, we have founders of Thrive Market and Hugh Kitchen and Zumba and Perfect Keto and Vega and, amazing VC partners. Like we have such cool humans that are already involved in the business. And so we're closing the rest of our round. over the next, there'll be like 3 to 4 weeks, depending on a few different kind of like pending things. If we take like one larger check or a bunch of smaller ones. Just getting more exciting cooks in the kitchen, because whoever you involve in the business kind of dictates, everyone puts their own energy and DNA in it in a different way. And so we just want really like awesome mission aligned humans that, see the mission, but it's also like a really good business model. We have great margins and like are growing, and there's a lot of really good momentum behind what we're creating as well.
Love that. For those who are, sitting at home or at their office and, they're working for a big corporate company like an EY, and, I came from the consulting world myself, who maybe have a dream, who want to build something really cool like you're building today, it's obviously a major leap. Talk to us a little bit about your experience in doing that, and what's your advice to them?
My journey from leaving corporate world was really unique. Like I quit my corporate job. I started modeling in New York to fund my first startup. And during that process, I like went on this personal exploration to meet as many cool people as I could in New York City, people that inspired me, people I wanted to learn from. So, I took a very extreme approach. I went on 365 coffee dates in 1 year and wrote down everyone I met, figured out how I could provide value to them and just learn from them and see if I could get, buy them coffee and get their time. And that really informed a lot of my like own versions of success and things that I kind of wanted to emulate. So my advice would be, find really awesome people that you are inspired by and buy them coffee and ask them thoughtful questions, and then kind of like build a strategy around that, but also don't lose your kind of like internal compass as well, because Brian and I just talked about this yesterday. The business we want to build is a like kind of new model. It's a fairly unique one. We're inspired by companies like Dr. Bronner's and Patagonia and, the Liquid Deaths of the world, people that are doing things in a different way. So just a blended approach.
That certainly resonates with me, and I completely hear that. It's like you could have success, but being able to be successful in doing it in a new way, that's what makes it really exciting. It's like you can follow a conventional path, but it's when you kind of blaze that new path and do something wholly new that it really gets cool. Love what you're building here. I think it's a really interesting company. For folks who are interested, you can still invest via WeFunder in their current round of funding, and join the Supermush community. But this has been a really, really illuminating conversation. Alli, thank you so very much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. And if anyone has any questions, like open door, please put my contact info in the wherever you release this. And if anyone wants to reach out and chat further, we'd love to talk, and also would love to have you join.
Thanks so much for listening to the show. If you want to use the same tools I do to find amazing founders like the ones I have on the show to power your investment decisions, you could head on over to kingscrowd.com/startups to try out our Edge Toolkit for 30 days free.